Oh, you're here! You must like going in circles then. In the real world, going in circles is considered a waste of time, but in programming, it is a valuable ability. But in the real world, going in circles is considered a waste of time, but in programming, it is a valuable ability. In the real world, well, in the world of Python, there are two types of loops: for and while loops. Before we talk about loops, let us talk about circles. That is why we are here, right? The area of a circle is pi r squared. But do you know the value of pi? Are you sure? Really? You think it's 3.14, don't you? Well, let's check that. In order to use in.python functions, classes, and constants, you need to import them using the import statement. Pi can be found in the math module, so we import the math module like this. Import math. That's all. Then we can print the value of pi by typing print math.pi. See? It's not 3.14. Okay, fine. It is, kind of. But you didn't memorize all these digits, did you? So, math module wins here. You can import many other modules like this. If you want to import a specific object from a module, you can say from module import object. For example, from math import pi. Then you can calculate the area of a circle with radius 7 as follows. Here, the function POW raises the first argument to the power of the second argument. It was all a trick. I just wanted you to know how to import modules. Now we can move on to the main topic. The for loop. For loops iterate over a sequence. This can be a list, a tuple, a string, or a dictionary. Here is an example. We define a list of numbers 0 up to 5. So numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I can say for number, here the word number can be any variable name. So for number in numbers, then you have to add a colon and indent just like in an if statement. Then print number. If we run this, we see that Python goes in circles and grabs one item at a time from the list and makes it available as the variable number. This goes on and on until it finishes the entire list. You can also loop through a list of strings. So for word in, and then we define a list here, we are root, and then we say print word. Remember this dictionary? We can also use a loop with dictionaries. Using a for loop, we can iterate through the keys. So for key val in student, print key val. Now, here you notice that we have the value of the keys. That means we can also access the values with which the keys are paired. So for key val in student, we'll say print key val, and then comma, and then colon with some space, and then student key val, and then close the bracket. Think about it. It makes total sense. Did you know? You can also use an iterator instead of a list or a tuple. Range 7 is an iterator. I can use the iterator in a loop like this. For I in range 5, print I. Note that the first value in the result is 0 and it does not reach 5 but stops at 4. Keep this in mind. Let us use a for loop to print all even numbers between 1 and 20. Thus, we are telling the iterator to start counting from 1. and then we print 2 times number. Notice that we only have up to 18 because 10 was not included in the list that was generated by the range iterator. There is another way of doing the same thing using range. So I can say for num in range 2, that's where we're starting. 20, that's where we are going, but we are not going to really reach there. And then 2, that's the increment after each loop. And then we print the number. You see, we get the same result. Now, let's go to while loops. While loops repeat as long as a certain Boolean condition is met. For example, I can set the variable count equal to 1. And then, using a while loop, I can say while count is less than 5. That means before it continues in a loop, it will check, is count less than 5? If the answer is yes, then it will continue executing. If the answer is no, it will stop the loop right away. So in this case, we can print count. But since count is not changing, this will always be true. So the loop will go on and on forever and ever. We need to change the value of count, or we need to define some stop criteria. We will see how we can manually stop the loop, but we can increment the value of count by 1 within each loop. So we say count plus equals 1. This is the same as count equals count plus 1. So Python checks if 1 is less than 5. If true, it continues to execute whatever is under while. But in the process, the value of count has changed to 2. Since 2 is less than 5, this will go on until the next value of count that is less than 5. Then the loop will exit. If for some reason we want to stop the for loop or while loop, we can use the break statement. When the word break is encountered in a loop, Python exits the loop immediately. Here's an example. So if we use true, it means the loop will go on and on forever, but we say check the value of count if it's greater than or equal to 5 and break. Let's say we want to print all even numbers between 5 and 21. We can set number equal to 5 and say while number is greater than or equal to 5 and number is less than 20, number plus equals 1. So we are just trying to change it. If the remainder of dividing by 2 is not equal to 0, then continue. Then we print the number at the bottom. Here, continue blocks the loop from going all the way to the end of the code block, and Python starts again from the top of the while loop. So, print will only be reachable if the remainder after dividing by 2 is 0, and hence we will have all even numbers. There are many ways this could be implemented. Can you think of any other ways? For each video in this series, you continue to learn more about Python. While you do that, it is time for me to take a break. Don't worry, we will continue later.